What is up, my plant pals? It is the end of a growing season, which means there's actually time to talk about gardening now. I was extremely fortunate this summer to gain access to a neighbor and friend's backyard to do some planting, so I am presenting to you the affectionately titled Satellite Garden. This is the growing space that I was able to use over the late spring and the summer, and really it admittedly became a bit of a dumping ground for experiments, seeds that I needed to use up. But the soil itself was pretty good. There was a couple of areas, one sort of larger square bed, and then one more triangular bed that I had free reign over. I tried lots of greens. I tried things like quinoa and amaranth. Spoiler alert, none of it came up. I, as you can see, wasn't too precious or careful about all of this. I really rely on seed varieties that propagate easily and get started without a ton of fuss. And if they need something more than that, then I have less success. So this is kind of what things looked like as I was getting started. There's not much to really look at beyond a bunch of dirt. I really didn't have to do much soil prep or cleaning of the beds. I did fertilize with just sort of an all-purpose organic fertilizer. This narrow bed, I decided that would make a nice spot to try some rows of corn. I've grown corn before, but usually in containers, and just kind of as a fun experiment, I'll get a tiny little cup of corn, and that's it. I tried other things like some different types of greens and pak choi. The pak choi got started, but I think various critters chewed on it and it never really got going. Lots of insect life was visiting the garden, so that was good to see. There were a ton of bees and wasps and things like that around. I also planted some potatoes. I planted a lot of peas. We had a really cool, wet start to the spring and summer. There's another lovely bee there in the fence. Because we had such a cool start to the year, I really doubled down on peas, and I was rewarded in this space because I had so much space for them. I was pulling out tons of peas. There's me throwing down some more seeds without a ton of care. I also decided in the middle of the two beds there was like a little pathway, so I threw down a bunch of clover seed to both pump some nitrogen into the soil, but also to create just a nice lush area to walk on. You'll see more of what that looks like in a minute. I also planted some peppers, some carrots, some radishes, tomatoes. Again, it was a little bit of a free-for-all and really just survival of the fittest to see what would come up. I just want to say a note about sort of finding this space. It really just came out of a conversation, and if you're feeling a little bit cramped with your container garden or your overall space, consider asking around. You might be surprised at who has space available. Here you can see things starting to come up. I think I see some potatoes and radishes there, the pea plants getting started. I also planted a whole bunch of beans. The bush beans did quite well as well. I think that final row on the right is pak choi, and that's about as big as it got. And then there's lots of nasturtiums around. But I kind of like the wild look. I mean, it's nice to do things in rows, but I also just like a little bit of wildness, and you'll see later in the video how things get pretty wild indeed. So this is a few weeks in, and I would check on the garden every few days, at least once a week. There were other people helping with watering, but this is, this is about I think a 3 to 4 week jump ahead here, but you can see just once we got some heat and some sunshine, things really took off. There was some existing lettuces and kales and strawberries planted in the beds, but you can see there the potatoes really going strong. The peas just shot up out of nowhere, and my clover pathway also really took off as well. And then a few more weeks from that, I think we're probably sitting at like late June, maybe early July, as things really start to get going. I think it's actually earlier than that, because the peas were still going strong. But yeah, you can see it all just really filled out nicely, and here we are later in the season. As things were really starting to get hot and dry, I was coming by and watering every couple of days, but the beds actually held moisture quite well. You can see this is the start of my corn. There's a lot of morning glory left over, so I was kind of constantly fighting with that, and it really liked to climb up the corn. And then I also planted a bunch of onions and garlic and things like that, which, to be honest, I think I'm done. I know I've said it before, but I never get much out of planting things like onions or garlic, and at the end of the day, you want to plant stuff that grows well, and maybe it's my particular area, but trying a new space, it didn't help. But you can see, obviously, the corn did really, really well. It did not take long for it to go from sort of these foot-high stalks to these really tall guys, and you can see here these beautiful little ears of corn. I planted a pink kernel variety that is mostly used for popcorn, and then I think I also planted peaches and cream corn seeds as well. And as you can see, it really loved this spot and just sort of proliferated. I tried the corn. It was delicious. Most of the corn that I ate was the peaches and cream, which is more of an eating corn and less of a popping corn. But I was really, really happy with the results of this experiment. And because it was kind of an unusual growing year, what I grew in my normal space at my apartment was a little bit less. I'm still harvesting some things, but the satellite garden actually helped balance out that loss, if you want to call it, of crops that normally I would have gotten. So that was really great. I would like to make more videos and talk more about space and finding space and utilizing space, especially for those of us that are in urban environments or just don't have a lot of access to space. I think it's really important to get creative, but also to be thinking in a community-minded way. It's nice to share things, and you might find, again, surprises around you as to who has space available to grow things. So more on that another time. I'll have more videos coming throughout the fall and the winter, so stay tuned for those. You can check out the website at lastditch.ca, hit subscribe, do all the things that you usually do, or don't, or just go put your feet up.